Tonight on CTV News, the 15-month-old baby who died in tragic circumstances is laid to rest. The Housing Minister calls for insulation to rental properties, and what to look for when choosing a retirement home.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening. The 15-month-old baby boy who died from blunt force injuries and other non-accidental injuries has been laid to rest today. Police say the baby Yakir Stokes was the victim of an extremely violent assault and died from his injuries. The homicide investigation into his death continues and the scene examinations now complete. His mother, his biological father, his stepfather were all at the funeral today. The house where his mother and stepfather lives has been handed back to the family, and Detective Inspector Greg Merton told News Talk ZB and all other media, in fact, that the assault is the worst he's ever seen in his police career. We'll bring an update on that story as it develops right here on CTV News. Well, Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell has welcomed the new tenancy requirements from the government, with landlords in the region now taking full responsibility for insulating homes and providing smoke alarms. Jared McCulloch has more.
Tenancy laws will change in New Zealand, with the Housing Minister pushing to help make homes around the country warmer, safer and drier. Many Cantabrians will benefit from the new policy, requiring landlords to fully insulate their rental properties. And Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell says she's pleased the government is taking steps to help those renting in Christchurch.
It is a major advance. We accept that we, as the provider of social housing, have a responsibility to meet those standards. In a significant number of our units, we already do.
Building and Housing Minister Dr Nick Smith says the new law will require both ceiling and underfloor insulation to be installed in rental homes over a 4-year period. But the requirements for rental property owners won't take effect until this time next year. However, the Mayor says she's concerned around problems about earthquake-damaged homes, where owners have left with an insurance payout.
That there have been a number of properties sold as is, where is, while the previous owner has taken the insurance settlement, and that has left a tenantable property which may find it challenging to meet these standards. That sort of difficulty might in fact be addressed for the city as well, so it's very good news all round.
The plans are designed to strengthen the Residential Tenancy Act, with social housing receiving a large subsidy from the Crown to complete the installation job, to be fitted by July 2016. And the Mayor says a large amount of the Council's housing supply meet the standards already from central government.
Around half of our units meet the standard. That means that we've got quite a considerable amount of work to do to assess those that are able to be meeting the standard, and obviously some designs make it more challenging than others.
Landlords will need to keep a record of the work being completed under the tenancy agreement to give those moving in a more informed understanding of insulation put in. Also, as part of the package, smoke alarms will be required for all rental properties, with landlords being responsible for their working order. The Mayor welcomes this regulation too.
That's a health and safety issue. We already have smoke alarms in our units, and we'll certainly be supporting that and making sure that they are within the distance of the bedroom, I think is the new announcement as part of that standard announcement yesterday.
And she says many private owners have already taken the step to get their properties up to scratch, with the announcement sealing the deal for better homes.
I know that there are a lot of private sector landlords who are already delivering to that, because they would want their tenants to be protected, and they would want their tenants to be safe and warm.
The changes will be brought up in Parliament later in the year. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Well, in tonight's feature story, more and more Cantabrian retirees are choosing retirement villages, but it's not as easy as you may have thought. Reporter Chelsea Daniels finds out why our region's old-timers are choosing retirement homes and asks what questions you need to know.
Life expectancy in New Zealand is steadily increasing, with 12% of people over the age of 75 already living in retirement villages. The Retirement Villages Association represents nearly all of the country's registered retirement village operators, and Director John Collins says that it's a prospect that has become increasingly more popular over the last decade.
Probably simply because retirement villages have suddenly become a mainstream housing option for older people. And as we do more of these seminars and as villages themselves develop and grow, people are understanding the benefits of living in a village much more readily.
There's around 600,000 people over 65 living in New Zealand currently, with a forecast of 1.5 million by the year 2050.
10 years ago, we probably had 5% of the over 75s living in a retirement village. Today, that number's more than double. We have 12% of people aged over 75 living in a village, and we expect that that number will continue to grow, both as the numbers of 75-year-olds increase in the population, so too are the percentage of 75-year-olds choosing to live in a village. So we see that the growth will continue to grow dramatically over the next few years.
He says moving into a retirement village offers occupants greater security, more companionship, no more house maintenance and support in healthcare in case you need it later on. It's something that has increased in popularity in Christchurch, especially after the earthquakes.
We know that retirement villages have increased in popularity in Christchurch. In fact, one of the first housing developments which were completed were indeed retirement villages as following on from the earthquake. A number of operators were able to get consents and construction underway very quickly. And we also know that the number of inquiries and interest has been quite high following the earthquakes. Basically, older people got sick of trying to live by themselves in houses which were damaged, and the whole cost of ownership and the burden of ownership proved too much, and yes, people looked at retirement villages as the answer.
People living in retirement villages report better mental and physical well-being, opposed to previously living in their family home or private residence. But it is understandable that it can be a daunting process looking for the right village to suit your needs. But the seminar made sure to point out the kind of questions you should ask before choosing your next new home. Retirees are urged to pinpoint the things that they really want, like, my dog has to come too. My grandchildren have to be able to come and stay. I like social activities, but only when it suits me. I need my privacy. I want a garden I can work in, even if it's only tiny. They also urge to think about your future when it comes to investing in a retirement village. Things like readily available healthcare might not be relevant now, but might be in a few years' time. We spoke to a few attendees of the seminar about why they were there and what urged them to want to know more.
Well, as one gets older, one's health starts to pack up, and it's better to go in before something serious does happen than after.
They've got a lot of activities arranged and that, and I think it'd be right.
You've got the alternative of downsizing and perhaps going into a slightly smaller place and releasing some capital, or you've got the option to go into a village and forget about all the things like maintenance and all those sorts of things, and that is an attraction.
The security, having somebody near at hand, having lots of not only cultural but physical things to be able to do within the village, meeting new people, all those things.
Ballroom dancing caught my ear.
I haven't ballroom danced for many years, but it would be fun.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
And still to come here on CTV News, Colin Craig joins me in the studio. Welcome back to CTV News. Well, on Monday, you may remember we spoke to former Conservative Party Chair John Stringer. He made some extraordinary claims, suggesting party leader Colin Craig has got more to hide. Take a look at this.
I think we can survive once Colin Craig's been removed. I mean, there are some other king hits to come yet, and I want to send a challenge out to the people still supporting him. After all the allegations, there is more to come. Colin Craig has got more to hide. It's coming out, and it will come out. The Conservative Party and the leadership and the governance, look, just remember, 11 of Colin's governing officials have resigned because of his behaviour and because we've seen the documented allegations about him that are still to come out. That should send warning bells and red flags to the party membership. And I'm saying...
You're saying tonight there are more allegations, serious allegations against Colin Craig to come out?
Yes, several of the board members have seen those documented. That's why they resigned. Nobody resigned from this party because I spoke out in the media following other members speaking out. Colin Craig is untenable as a political leader of anything.
And Colin Craig is with us now to defend those allegations. Welcome to the programme. Thanks for your time tonight.
Hi.
Colin Craig is untenable at anything. What's your response to that?
Well, Mr Stringer's got his own opinion. I don't think that's a very valid opinion. It's not for him to decide, of course, at the end of the day. For the Conservative Party, that's decided by the board and the members.
John Stringer said to me there are more king hits to come, there are more serious allegations to come. Do you have any idea of what he may be on about?
No, not at all, and I think that's just game playing. Look, if he's been very public and outspoken about his criticisms of me, I'm sure if he had anything else to say, he could say it.
There are many in the media circles, and both on the left and the right, who are saying your political career is completely gone. What's your response to that? Because they're right to a certain degree, aren't they?
Well, I don't think they are. It's not for them to decide. And actually, I haven't made it for me to decide either. We're going through a process where we're consulting with members and supporters and they're giving us feedback as to what they think. We've got hundreds, probably well over 1,000 responses in already. That's giving us a flavour. Certainly the vast majority are supportive. How that works out is something that's still to be decided.
But here's the deal. The Conservative Party doesn't effectively have a leader. It doesn't really have a board. You are rudderless and leaderless. There ain't no party though, Colin.
Well, I think that's an over-exaggeration. The reality is that...
Hang on, do you have a leader?
The process is...
Do you have a leader?
Well, obviously not, because
Do you have a board?
No, but when
so
the
that's not an over-exaggeration.
We are in the process of electing one. And that's our standard process in the Conservative Party. We're a party that believes in referendum. We're a party that believes in the right of people to decide. That's the way we elect our board. Sure, we've had to bring it forward by about 2 months, but the reality is it's a process we've gone through before, it's a process we go through again. It's just not that big a drama.
I want to bring you back to the press conference you held a few weeks ago now. It was bizarre. Do you look back at now and think you could have done it better? It looked bizarre, and I'll tell you why, because you stood there, or you were sitting down, and you essentially said you were sort of sorry, but we didn't really know what you were sorry for, because you saying that there were no serious allegations, but you had to say sorry because there was inappropriate behaviour. So what I'm trying to get from you tonight is the spectrum and the line. Where is that line, and where did you cross it?
Well, look, I think that's an obvious question people want to ask. I am in a position where I can't talk openly and freely about all the allegations that have been made. We have requested the ability to do that, and it would be great to be able to do that. So that's what we've asked for. We haven't got agreement from the other party to do that. So until we have that, we are a little bit hamstrung in terms of what we can actually respond to. What we did respond to was the mischievous allegations that were out there. Those had to be sorted out.
Well, talking about mischievous, I guess you would say that John Stringer continues to make allegations, but at the same time doesn't. Have you spoken to him since the interview on CTV News, and if not, why not? No, look, I haven't. I don't have any ongoing correspondence with Mr Stringer at the moment. My last correspondence with him was formal, simply saying, look, you've made a lot of allegations, you need to retract those, they're baseless. He hasn't come back to me formally in any way on that. You've sent out a letter to current members and supporters, yeah, asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness from what, though? Well, look, I'm not claiming to be a perfect leader, and there are some things that people have raised and some of those criticisms that people have raised along the way. Some of the way, maybe my answers in interviews. There's always this thing of, can your leader in a political party be perfect? I wanted to make it very clear to the membership and to supporters, I'm not a 100% perfect person, and I don't want them to think I am. I want to know that they'll support me in who I am, whether I make the odd mistake or not. No, I'm new to politics. I only started this 3.5 years ago, and I haven't always got it right. And I feel it's very transparent to go back to people and say, what do you think? I'm not in this for myself. I'm in this to represent people. If they feel I can do that, then I'm happy to put my hand up. The trouble is, the brand Conservative Party is Colin Craig. Colin Craig and the Conservative Party, many would argue, is now tarnished because the Conservative Party builds its reputation on family values. Now, the allegations are, what we do know so far, there is, a former press secretary, a nice female blonde, inappropriate behaviour. It doesn't set the best example for a party that relies on the family values brand, though, does it?
Look, and I understand that concern, and people are raising that, and they're saying, well, look, this is something that makes you untenable. And some people are thinking like that. Not the majority, but obviously it's a concern, and I recognise that. And I think that's the importance of going out to members and going, well, look, I'm not saying I've been 100% right or perfect at all times. Do you still support me or not? And I think that's a very transparent, honest process. It's what I agreed that I would do with the previous board. And when we get that feedback, it'll be there for the board to consider.
Do you feel embarrassed at all the fact that the majority of your board said, see you, Colin Craig, we don't want anything to do with you?
Well, I think you've got to remember that I had stood... No one resigned prior to me standing down. Once I stood down, the board needed to take it forward. A number of those board members have talked to me about why they resigned. It's more complicated than Mr Stringer would have you believe. It became a very hostile and very open environment where you weren't safe from, disclosure of anything you might have written. That's a hard environment to operate in.
In a way, though, you've lost one of your greatest and most outspoken and highly publicised members, Christine Rankin. Does that hurt you?
Well, I think it does matter to me. Of course it matters to me, and there's a discussion that I want to have with her at some stage about that.
Colin Craig, appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
And still to come here on CTV News, what's all happening in the world of sport and the all-important local weather forecast. Do stay with us. And now Gordon standing by with the latest in local sports.
With Dan Carter, Colin Slade and Tom Taylor all heading to Europe after this year's Rugby World Cup, the Crusaders' dilemma at first five has been well documented. The Crusaders' void left at first five has now been filled, with the franchise announcing the 3 candidates set to fight for the 10 jersey in 2016. Marty McKenzie, Ben Volavola and Richie Mo'unga are set to take the franchise into the next chapter, replacing the 3 departing All Blacks. Māori All Black Marty McKenzie will move south from the Chiefs, returning to the city where he spent his final 2 years of secondary school. McKenzie will return to Christchurch, having played first 15 rugby at Christ College, before playing for the New Zealand Sevens team and ITM Cup rugby for Taranaki. Exciting Fijian player Ben Volavola is making the move from the New South Wales Waratahs, with the international player seen as an athletic first five with impressive pace and a handy kick. Meanwhile, Richie Mo'unga is no stranger to Canterbury, having been a part of the Crusaders' wider training squad and has previously played a key role in Canterbury's ITM Cup program. Well, still with rugby now, and the All Blacks schedule for 2016 and 2017 has been announced, including the much anticipated 2017 Lions Tour. What this means for Christchurch is another rugby championship match at AMI Stadium next year, with the All Blacks set to take on the Springboks on September 17th. Christchurch will miss out on the All Blacks in 2017. However, the British and Irish Lions will pay a visit when they take on the Crusaders in June. Well, it's a top-of-the-table showdown in the National Ice Hockey League this weekend when the Canterbury Red Devils take on the Dunedin Thunder at Alpine Ice. The two sides met in Dunedin for 2 matches last weekend, with the series finishing at 1 game apiece. Our defending champion Red Devils will be looking for a sweep in this weekend's 2 games as they look to climb to the top of the competition. Both of this weekend's games get underway at 4:30. To cricket now, when it's been announced that Lincoln will play host to a New Zealand first in February. For the first time ever, an Australian domestic cricket match will take place outside of Australia, with Perth and New South Wales set to play a 4-day Sheffield Shield match at Lincoln University. The match will be used as preparation for a number of Australian Test players ahead of the 2 Test series between New Zealand and Australia in March. And finally tonight, the UC Rugby Championship is not taking place this weekend with the school holidays. However, CTV will bring you match of the day coverage this Sunday with a last-minute classic played between Shirley Boys High School and Nelson College. The midweek game went down to the wire with the scoreline twisting and turning into the final minutes. Coverage of that match can be seen right here this Sunday at 12:30. You're up to date with the latest in local sport. I'm Gordon Findlater for CTV Sport.
Thank you, Gordon. A very busy weekend of sport. Now, Mercy standing by with the local weather forecast.
Kia ora Canterbury. Well, the sleet and the snow definitely ease off today. It came out quite nice and fine for most places this afternoon. But let's take a look at today's highs. Twiselon 4 degrees, Timaru and Geraldine 8 degrees for both of you. Looking to central Canterbury now, Christchurch, Akaroa and Leeston and Ashburton all on 8 degrees, 7 degrees for Methven and Darfield, just 6 degrees for you today. Let's take a look further north now. Kaikoura, 7 degrees for you, Cheviot and Amberley. A little bit warmer for Rangiora on 8 degrees. Hanmer Springs just 4 degrees for you. Pretty chilly after that snow. And Oxford 5 degrees for you. Over to the Alpine region, 4 degrees for Lake Tekapo and Mount Cook. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather for the major centres. Timaru, sun for you tomorrow and 10 degrees is your high. -5 though for your morning. Watch that, very icy. Over to Ashburton now, a very similar picture for Ashburton. Sun out for you tomorrow with 10 degrees as your high and -4. Chilly one again. Over to the Christchurch, 9 degrees for you tomorrow and the sun is out as well. -5 though. Again, maybe a day to sleep in and not get out for the frost. Kaikoura, 8 degrees for you and -1 for your morning. Let's take a look at other areas for tomorrow's temperatures. Twiselon 5 degrees. 10 degrees for Waimate though, a little bit warmer for you. Sun for most of South Canterbury. Looking to central Canterbury, 10 degrees for Akaroa and Leeston, Darfield and Methven on 8 degrees, -6 though for Methven and Darfield. Moving further north now, Cheviot on 9 degrees, a little bit warmer for Amberley and Rangiora, 10 degrees for both of you, light winds for most places here and the sun is also out. And over to the Alpine region, 5 degrees for Lake Tekapo, Mount Cook and Arthur's Pass. Let's take a look at the upcoming days. Sunday, 10 degrees for most places on Sunday, 9 though for Kaikoura and a few patchy clouds there for Kaikoura as well. Those minuses again for the morning though. Over to Monday's weather, not too bad for the first day back at work or for those school holidays. 10 degrees for Christchurch, Kaikoura and Timaru. Looking to other areas for the upcoming days, a very similar picture across the board. That sun is out, quite dry, fine days, light winds for most places and those really frosty mornings. Flipping over to Monday, we're seeing the same picture here with a few patchy clouds for places, but mostly clear skies. As we can see over the next coming days, it's actually coming out quite nice for the weekend. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and we'll see you back here next week.
Good to see the weather's finally improving. Have a good weekend, Mercy. And just before we go tonight, today sees the 30-year anniversary of the bombing of the Rainbow Warrior. It was the first international state-sponsored terrorism committed in New Zealand waters, with 2 explosions sinking the ship almost immediately. The crew managed to escape, apart from the photographer Fernando Pereira, who drowned. The ship was active in supporting a number of Greenpeace whaling, seal hunting, nuclear testing and nuclear waste dumping campaigns during the late 1970s and of course the early 80s. So we think about that day today. And that is CTV News for Friday. Stay warm and have a great weekend, Canterbury.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
Have you done the news minute?
Yeah, I'm just going to say Chelsea's about to send it through.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
I was going to say I could just